So basically, my tips for doing backgrounds, you want to keep it fairly simple, and just aim for clarity. I know backgrounds often get neglected and done very last minute. I know I do that a lot. But the idea is you don't need to go crazy. Just answering what kind of environment your characters are in is enough. If it's outdoors, I'm going to draw my horizon line. Generally, a good tip, try to keep the horizon line kind of low. Don't want it like up here, usually. And all the horizon line is, it's, if you think about the beach, it's like the line that separates the sky from the ocean or the sky from the ground. That's what the horizon line is, right? So you're gonna keep that kind of low. So if like you have your characters up here, they're walking or whatever, you can see them. If you have it up high, then perspective gets really hard and it's kind of hard to see what's going on. The other concept is as things get further and further away, they'll get smaller. So if we have like a tree in the front, it's going to be pretty big. I'm just going to do a scribble tree. And a tree of the same height that's off in the distance is going to be shorter. Right. So that creates the illusion of depth. So real basic stuff. We're not going to get that too into perspective today. But just kind of keep those general things in mind. If things are further away, they're going to be small. Up close, they're going to be pretty big. Indoor stuff, same thing. It still has horizon line. If this is like a really pulled back shot, this is floor, you know, and like maybe this is a wall, you know, you still keep that kind of low. Same concept. A lot of times though, you're not going to do far away shots like this. Like you might do this for the first panel or something, just to see where we are. Like I want to draw this like bit of furniture here. All right, gonna tell where we are. Here's a door. A lot of times you aren't going to do that. A lot of times you have a closer shot where like a character's talking and then there's like a huge speech bubble. I'm going to zoom in. So there's not a lot of room here, right, for a lot of background stuff. So usually you just pick one or two things that will indicate where the scene is taking place and draw those. Straighten this out a little bit. So like if this scene is taking place, I don't know, like in a school or something, you know, you might have behind the character, there might be like a whiteboard or something, you know, so you just sketch that in. Maybe this is like a poster and I pretend that it keeps going. So you always want to pretend that the room keeps going outside of your panels, you know, and that's really about it. You don't have to go crazy. So just one or two things that will show where this scene is taking place. Push that down. So I have here, this is a little sketch over of the layout that Ben did yesterday. Most of the decisions about where these are taking place has already been made, right? So this is out in space. This is a government agent, you know, down here who's calling Surfer Dude. And then this is like a close up of the moon and all the craters and stuff. So a lot of those decisions have already been made, which is the easy part. So today is just going to be about filling out some of this blank space and trying to make this feel more real, feel like it fits into an actual space. I'm going to give you guys a second, if you haven't already, to get out the stuff that you worked on yesterday. And if you weren't here yesterday, these images that they worked on are available online as well. So if you want to follow along with me, you can do that too. So I'm going to hide that. Pull this up. So I'm just going to focus on these panels one at a time and think about what I can add to the background to make this feel more real. Obviously back here, this is space, right? So this is all going to be dark. You know, I can go through and like darken this a little bit with my pencil if I want to. I consider that more of like a color thing though. What I am going to do is under this huge like gun laser thing, I'm going to put a cast shadow. So I'm going to sketch in real light. We always want to start off light, because we can always go back in later and make it darker. With comics, there's usually like a sketch phase and then like an inking phase. So we want to try to be as light as possible when we start out. So it has these little cutouts. You know, and then with my pencil, I just go ahead and shade in this little cast shadow. All the way down here as well. So this thing up here ends up feeling more solid, like it's actually in this environment. I think there was like a zap up here. I always want to leave room for your text. And then I'm going to sketch in, I want a bunch of stars. So I'm just going to kind of quickly put in random places where I want my stars. And then I want this laser to be really obvious. It's not all the way there yet, but I'm just going to darken around here. Some artists won't shade. You know, they'll just do the lines. and then put the color in on top of it. But some people find it really helpful to kind of shade your sketch work when you're starting out, so then you can see where all the light parts are and then all the darker parts are. And then I'll make that more clear. It's really up to you. Now for the surface of this planet, it's probably not going to be flat, but I don't want to go too crazy either because I want all the focus to be on this like laser gun. So on the edge of the moon, or whatever planet this is, I'm just going to make it a little bit bumpy. Yeah. Maybe add some rocks. Doesn't have to be crazy. They'll have a shadow as well, going out this way. I'm going to clean this up a little bit. But that's really all there is to it. It's just building up that background detail. Filling out where you think everything ought to go. I'm going to pop down here to this scene. This scene had a lot of text, so I wanted to be kind of devoted to that. On the layout, he had this screen behind him. So I want to keep that screen, but maybe instead of it being black, I'm going to draw a little version of the moon back here, because that's my story. He's talking about how the moon has a bunch of craters in it. So I'm going to sketch this little circle with a bunch of notches in it, so that when we go to the next panel, it makes sense. You're just going from here, this wider shot with the person in it, and then kind of zooming in, like on a movie, zooming into this part. And then Ben had some like hatch marks. So make it look more like a screen. I'm gonna do a little grid. And the edge of the screen. And I don't want to go too crazy with all this stuff. I think I might move him over just a little bit. So I don't want too much space with nothing in it, the negative space. I don't want everything happening on one side, not the other side. And this last one, I really like how big the moon is. So I'm just gonna lightly, I want it even lighter than that, kind of remind myself which parts are going to be dark because it's space. And contrast that with the moon, so the moon really sticks out and all those craters really stick out. Make this nice and dark. You can also, like we have stars here, so you can, with an eraser, let me make this more opaque, erase out little stars. Really cool effect. Okay. So it's still real rough. I always work in rough first and then get more and more final, bring out the details as I go along. I usually do like a couple passes, but that's really all it is, going through saying, okay, what does this need to make the situation more clear? Maybe I want to move the shadow up a little bit. Like that. Nothing's ever really set in stone. Every pass, I'm trying to make it better than the last time. We'll pull through. That's kind of like a rough pass on this first page. So I'm going to pause real quick. Do you guys have any questions? I'm going to stop share.
We had a couple people with audio issues, so if you do have a question, you can type it in the chat.
Technical difficulties. Laya, did you have your question? Does she still have her hand raised? Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah. So, what if you're not really done with the, the Sifru thing, the pages? Like, say I'm
well, you keep working.
Complete with this.
Yeah, you just keep working.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I mean, the pages that Scott posted are kind of small. I can't really see the details in it.
Yeah, so treat them.
To make it bigger?
No, you treat them like thumbnails, right? So you have them off to the side just to give you an idea of what's going on. And then on your own page, you draw it bigger.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, we always start off with small thumbnails. And then once we figure out exactly what we want to do, then we draw the big version. So we already have all our ideas out. And we know what we want for the scene. Yes, I know everyone's probably at a different spot on their comic books. That's okay. You just keep building them up and building them up. That's why we always start out light. I try to do like the whole thing in one light pass just to figure out what I've got going on. And then I go back later and put in details and darken stuff. And then if I'm gonna ink, it's really important to be light if you're gonna put pen over it, because then the pencil might interfere with the pen. So you guys can keep working. I'm gonna save this. And then I'm going to bring up the second page. And work on that for a little bit. And if you guys have any questions, Scott monitoring the chat, let me know. I'm going to resize this.
The last question, Tater Tot was just asking about tips for digital artists.
For comic books or just in general?
Talking about inking your panels.
Inking. Cool. Okay.
In general, he says.
In general? General for digital art. Basically, so you see here I've got, like, this is my reference page. I think of it, it's all based on traditional art. You'd still do the same process with traditional art. But what I'm doing is taking down the opacity so I can still see it, similar to when you would put a blank piece of paper on top of the paper you're working on with traditional art. I'm going to make a new layer. Go in and do my sketch over it. And I'm not following the lines exactly, right? I'm just trying to get the general feel of what's going on in the general size and shape of everything. So every pass I do, I'm trying to make it better than the last one. Right, so I'm not, his head turned out kind of bigger, so I'm just gonna not follow those proportions.
I have a question.
Uh-huh.
So how do you draw characters in the background?
So if they're far away, they're going to be very
small. A finished drawing.
So if they're far away, they're going to be very small and not a lot of detail. So they'll probably just be like a silhouette. So I'll do this here. Once I'm going to hold down Shift to make my line straight.
And Laya also has her hand up.
Cool.
How do you get into the? How do you sign? So how do you sign into the comic book camp?
You sign up online. Yeah, you sign up online.
So I'll
how?
paste the link and then, or I'll paste the link to the registration, but the actual links to get into the Zoom haven't been sent out yet.
Cool. Thanks, Scott.
Okay.
Sure.
So getting back to the thing about people. So I have, this is my horizon line here, right? So this is the sky and this is the ground and the ocean. If I'm going to have people walking down here, up here, you know, I won't put them right in the front. They're going to be kind of small, you know, walking in the distance. So I might do something like that. Oh, there it is. And then even smaller, you know, might just be like a dot, and a little bit of a longer dot, right? Back in the distance, I'm gonna do maybe a tree. So real simple, no detail. If they're up, if I have a person up here, like if I have a person standing in the foreground, like this, I don't know. You know, then there'd be all the detail and stuff. but I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to people, you know, if there's a lot, it's crowded. There might be a lot of little dots. Maybe there's a volleyball game going on. So I'm going to draw the volleyball net. And then there's like a little dot over here, and then a slightly bigger dot over here. And then I'm going to make a little line like he's jumping. So it doesn't have to be a lot, right? Like these are kind of little squiggles, but it's filling out the environment back here. So it's a little more full. Waves. And you get a sense of what's going on. A little mat. Maybe there's a, maybe do a palm tree here, but it's up front so you don't see any of the leaves or anything. It's just the trunk of it. Did we have any more questions? I know there was a couple in a row. I want to make sure I got to all of them as I'm kind of working here.
There is a question. Is there a reason the government used a surfer dude and not a real astronaut?
Surfer dude is a real astronaut.
Good question.
He surfs the solar waves, I think is what we came up with. Very, very wacky surfer dude. Great question.
The reason they used surfer dude and not a military official.
That I don't know.
Surfer dude wears many hats.
He does. Yeah, maybe he is a military official. I don't know. Yeah. So as I'm sketching this guy, you know, I need to move the surfboard down a little bit. That's okay. You don't want to trace so much when you're doing different versions on top of your latest one. If you're taking your thumbnail and then doing like a fuller version, you don't want to literally redraw your lines from before. I'm going to kind of make them a little bit better. So if you're, usually what happens, I draw small and then I need to draw bigger and bigger and bigger as I get the fuller character. Look at his little smile, little details. And then if I was inking this, you know, it would be the exact same thing. I go over it and I go over all my little detail lines, but I wouldn't try to trace them. I would just use it as a guide and then try to make it better and better. So I'm going to move this text box kind of over here. You can have things overlap with your text box too. That's fine. Obviously you want to be able to read whatever the writing is, but I have some trees that are kind of, sometimes I like things that frame the text box, so it's not just floating on my page. And then in the way back, there's like the mountains. Maybe I want those smaller. They're very far away. Rarely ever do I stick with the first thing I draw. So that's why drawing light is super important. Yes, we raise hands.
I'm sorry, Laya is asking, how do you do inking?
So let's say I was ready to ink this. For digital, I can just lower down the opacity If I'm working on pencil and paper, I take an eraser, like a soft eraser or a kneaded eraser. Let's see what the opacity is on this. And then lightly erase over the whole thing. So I can still see the lines, but all that extra graphite is off because graphite sometimes interferes with the ink. And then whatever pen I'm using, make sure this is all the way up to 100. Sometimes it's helpful also if you can see through the paper that you're drawing on to get a new piece of paper too. That way you can mess up as much as you want. But if let's say I'm doing this all on one paper, I'm right-handed, so I would start on the left-hand side and then go over all my lines, keeping in mind that I'm not trying to trace per se. So if it's a little bit different from my sketch, it's fine. I'm trying to make it better. But you know, I just go over all my lines, all my little details until I got through the whole thing. And if I was left-handed, I would start on the right-hand side. And the reason for that is because sometimes your hands will drag across the paper. And if your ink doesn't dry very fast, you can get like smudgies like that. So to avoid that, you just start on the opposite side from whatever your inking hand is. So if you're right-handed, you would start on the left. If you're left-handed, you would start on the right. And that helps to avoid that problem.
There's another question for you. Why are there so many versions or layers?
So this one's right here that I have is just 2, which is light for me. Usually I have my thumbnail layer, which is all like my really rough ideas. And then I will have a couple layers of me sketching over it. And I'm just figuring things out and trying to decide like what pose I want, what formation I want back here. And then I might do another layer on top of that that's finalizing all the details. So I'm always trying to make things better and better and better each version I go. When I work traditionally, it's the same thing. I just use different sheets of paper. I have a light box so I can see through. Paper is a little bit see-through. So that helps, you know, and I just have it until I get it to where I want it. And then I go over and ink on top of it. But the layers help to kind of separate things. And if I change my mind, you know, I didn't erase it, so I can always go back and look at the previous layer. So that's a nice little shortcut if you are working digitally. But if you're not, it's based on traditional mediums. It's based on the idea of just using different sheets of paper to do your drawings. All right, I'm going to leave that for now and move to this panel. You guys are asking really great questions. Keep them coming. Other people are probably wondering the same thing too. Like that. I'm just drawing the silhouette of our surfer dude guy. So I know where he's supposed to go. And then I will draw the background. Oh, another tip. I know I'm just drawing boxes so I don't get too lost in it. But when you are inking, do the text first, then this border. Because if you do the border first, and like this is a lot of text, and you have too much text and you run out of space, there's nothing you can do if you've already inked this little box. So I'm sketching and I'm just leaving the box as a box. I drew the box first. When you're inking though, and it's like permanent and final, do the text first and then the box second. You will save yourself so much heartache. So much time and heartache.
Naylene, there's a question for
Yes.
you. What is, in your opinion, the best art you've made?
Best art I've made. I don't even know. Artists are like, we're all really critical of the stuff that we make. I don't even know. I actually did live caricatures for years. That's what I was doing before we all got stuck at home. And that was great because you got a lot of drawing in a very short amount of time, and you never knew what you were going to get that day. You go in and you might be doing, mermaids or superheroes, or you might get something really random. Maybe drawing someone as like a minotaur or something. You never know.
And what's the weirdest thing you've drawn for someone?
One guy wanted to be in a suit sitting on a cheeseburger. I remember that one. I don't know why. I don't know why the suit. I don't know why the cheeseburger. But that's what he wanted. Let's see, what else did I have that was weird? I drew people on the stork one time because they were having a baby. And that was their announcement, was a caricature of them sitting on a stork. A lot of it was the same stuff over and over again. So whatever was popular at the time, I ended up drawing that over and over and over. But sometimes we got interesting things. Okay, so I forget what the line is with this one. Don't know if I should put him at the beach or not.
A lot of questions for you. Here's another one. Do you have any favorite movies?
I do have a lot of favorite movies. So this is going to be weird, but one of my favorite movies ever is called Little Shop of Horrors, which is a movie Frank Oz directed, from the Muppets. Yeah. It was a musical written by the guys who did the music for Little Mermaid. Like, that's kind of what got them discovered. So that's one I like a lot. A really recent one that I watch all the time was Spider-Verse. I really like Spider-Verse. It's a really interesting movie. So one thing I'm trying to do here is I don't want all sides to be exactly the same. So I kind of have 3 bumps over here and then 1 bump over here. because my guy is more on the left side. So I'm trying to balance that out a little bit. When you guys are working in digital, turn off your reference from time to time so you can see what you're actually drawing. Another good tip that I have that saves me all the time, mirror your stuff, flip it. If you have a piece of paper, sometimes you can do this just by holding it up to the light backwards. What this does is it changes your perspective on what you're drawing. So mistakes show up a lot easier when you flip it. So that doesn't matter what you're doing. If you're sketching, if you're painting, whatever, if you can flip your paper and see it backwards, see it in reverse, it'll really help you, because sometimes we get stuck. Looking at our drawings, we don't really see it for what it is. And then stuff will stick out if they're not lined up right. Make this hand a little bigger. Sometimes you'll think things are looking great, and then you'll flip it and be like, what?
There's another question. How do you manage everything when it's a bigger story or project, like an actual book?
How do you, like your time, or just how do you keep everything straight? Because if it's just how do you keep everything straight,
And not get discouraged.
Oh, and not to get discouraged. I think just taking it in pieces helps. If you're feeling overwhelmed, instead of being like, oh, I have this huge book I have to do, just take it panel by panel, or step by step. So if I'm looking at this, like, for the stage that Ben was at, where you're just doing layout, actually say to yourself, I'm not going to get caught up on details for this one. I'm just trying to get the idea down, right? I'm just trying to get a pose down. Because if it's a process, you don't have to get it right the first time. And that takes a lot of the pressure off. If you just focus on this one step, I'm just going to do that. And then when you go back later, you have it down more clearly. You can say, I'm going to take what I drew and I'm going to make it better, right? I'm going to make it more clear. Or I'm just going to fill in the background this one. So, you can go through whole pages in like steps and be like, okay, this is my background phase. I'm not going to worry about my character up front or anything. I'm just going to put in like the background, and go through it like that. So yeah, I'm a big fan of not having everything done in one go. You can take your time, look at it in steps. And if you're doing it like a process, so like we have you start with a story outline, you figure out the characters, and then you go into figuring out the layout and stuff like that. You already know where the story is going, so you don't have to worry about that. This weekend they had the Lightbox Expo. So I was watching people like draw and paint all weekend. And a lot of them they have their own process down, even for painting, where they're like, okay, this pass is for, that's just the color. And then this pass is for just the shadows. And then this pass is for just the highlights. So they break it down so they can get a lot of work done in a very short amount of time. And that's just by making it easier on themselves mentally. They just focus on one thing at a time. last line down. So my last couple of panels. So like this even, I wouldn't consider done all the way, but I want to get down to these. We only have 10 minutes. What happened before we run out of time? This one I know is in space.
Naylene, there's a question. How did you find your art style?
So art style ends up changing. Sometimes a lot. So when I was doing caricatures, I did it at Disneyland, so my style ended up very Disney because you're around that stuff all the time and looking at it all the time. But it was really weird. What ended up happening after just a couple of months is that we could tell who drew what just by looking at it because we were used to each other's drawing styles. But I don't know, it's not necessarily something you consciously do and then stick to. I can kind of tell what year I was in by how I drew. I don't know, it just kind of, it changes. It changes and develops. Yeah, you just got to play with stuff. Very rarely was it a conscious thing where I'm like, I'm going to draw eyes like this sometimes. Like I did do that, but most of the time it was just my lines were getting better. And then that kind of changed the style that I was drawing in. Nothing. So we are rapidly running out of time. Time flies. Yeah, I was about to say, you guys deserve a chance to show what you're working on. So I'm going to stop sharing, and we're going to have some show and tell. So if you want to share what you're working on, doesn't matter if it's done or not, just raise your hand or sound out in the chat, and then Scott is going to help me get you guys in an order.
First up is Nathaniel.
Cool.
My camera might not be working.
It's a little blurry, Nathaniel, but I can see you.
I didn't know what I was thinking.
Ooh, yeah, that's like a psychedelic, like crazy background.
Yeah, my head was spinning and I had to just think anything I could think of.
It looks like he got like hit in the head or something, and this is his like dazed, like crazy whacked out face. That's awesome.
Yeah, it kind of looks like the ground's made from cookies.
Ground's made from cookies. Nice. That's great. All right, who do we have next?
Tater Tot.
Hey, Tater Tot. Wonderful. We got some ink in there. Now, are you using like a dip pen or a brush for your ink, or are you using markers?
Brush pens.
Brush pen. Oh, very cool. Yeah, that can be hard to handle. Very nice.
Thank you.
Here's Liliana and Heather Rose.
Hello. Oh, that's awesome. I love her walking away into the distance.
Yes, that's all. Heather's didn't do anything she didn't finish anything this class.
Okay. Do you have anything in progress that you're working on, or you want to skip?
She wants to skip.
Okay.
Next up
All right,
is Laya.
next?
Hi. So I did 2 pages of what you did, Surfer Dude.
Uh-huh.
And then I did one unique one myself.
All right. So we have the one with that's page 1 for the Surfer Dude one.
Yeah. And then the other page.
Very nice. Put it a little bit closer to the camera so you can see it's a little hard to see. Very nice. Okay. And then did you the one that you did that you changed?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here. If you can't read the captions at the bottom, I can for you.
Uh-huh. Yeah. So are they mountain climbing?
This guy is mountain climbing. This
Uh-huh.
guy is on the raft here.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I love your own story.
And the last character I drew last time and finished coloring was a mad scientist. scientist, and he's saying this is a perfect place for a vacation.
Uh-huh. Very
So,
cool. All right. Did we have anyone else who was waiting to share? Okay. We have 6 minutes, so we still have a little bit more time. So next week, for the camp, I know most of you guys know this already, but we are going to have a camp where we all work on a comic book together. So we are going to write the story together. Everyone is going to get their own pages to do. And we're going to meet and work on the process and stuff. It's going to follow the same process that we've been doing all month. So the brainstorming, sketching, inking, and color. And then we're going to print out, we're going to have a book to print out for you guys, but it's going to be very, very quick moving. We going to want it done in a week. So if you want to do that, again, signups are online. Scott, did we have a link yet to post?
Yes,
or do we not
I
have
posted
that yet?
it earlier. I can
Okay.
grab it again right now.
Okay.
And there was a question.
Yeah.
Is that just for kids?
I don't know if we designated if it was just for kids or not.
Sure about that.
I don't know. I would just sign up. Yeah, I would just sign up. If you want to do it. Yeah. We're gonna need I know, right? We're gonna need a lot of hands. So yeah, if you feel like doing it, I would just sign up. Yeah, but we're all gonna do different pages of the same story. So everyone's gonna draw. You're gonna draw the same characters but in your own style. So that's always kind of fun.
Actually, the link does say for students ages 8 to 15.
Oh, there is. Okay.
Sorry.
8 to 15. Okay. Go with that. Yeah, maybe we could do like different age group ones. I don't know. We go down the road. Yeah, don't worry if you can't attend. We will miss you, but it's all the same. It's really all the same information that we've already done done all month. There's no like new lessons really that we're learning. It's just the same process that we're doing over again. So if you want to make a comic on your own, you have all the tools to do that now. We just went through the whole process. And you guys, Lee has tomorrow, and it's for color for that. So if you want to hang on to whatever page you're working on right now. And then tomorrow, I'm going to color it in.
Do you mind if I just take a second to spotlight Tater Tot's awesome
Oh, sure.
costume?
Yeah, he's giving costume today.
That's so cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love when you guys show your stuff that isn't even what you're working on. It's just stuff that you like to do. I love that. So we have 2 more minutes. So any last minute questions or any last minute shares, now is the time. And I'm still working on mine. I still have 2 more panels.
Bye.
Bye. I'm gonna have to start signing off. Do we have any other last minute questions or comments? I want to know, Tater Tot, did you make the head or did you order it? Nice. All right, he made it. Very nice.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. I did like a tiny bit of sewing when I was in high school going into college. And I could never quite get the hang of it. I had a couple friends who were really into cosplay. I'm like, can you help me? All right. Scott, do you want to spotlight yourself? Yeah, check out. Scott has his own.
Not
He has his own costume. Was that for Halloween, Scott?
No, I made
or is that
this
just-
for an 80s themed race that I ran in. So I actually ran.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, so you ran in that. How long was that race?
It was a 5K.
5K? Okay. All right,
I
folks.
actually made two because my buddy ran with me too.
Oh, so you had 2 Rubik's Cubes. That's awesome. All right, you guys, if you have no more questions, we are out of time. So hopefully you will be able to make it tomorrow and color these things in, get them nice and finished. And I hope to see you next week when we do that comic together. But thanks for coming, hanging out with me. You guys had great questions.
Bye.
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 Some waving.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank
Thanks,
you,
Scott.
guys.
Sure.
Bye.
As always.